Day 8. I gotta play that little riff there. Oh, 8 days in a row. So today is the last of the week of streams, and then from this point forward, I'll be doing it once a week on Saturday. Hopefully, barring anything else crazy comes up. So today we'll give us a little updates on what's going on the channel. Welcome for those of you who are watching right now or watching the stream later. Again, if you see this, you can always go under the live tab on the YouTube channel and see all the past live streams. I don't delete anything. And I'm slowly compiling little clips and things together from streams of the past where I've gone over uh, different techniques or different songs or whatever, and compiling them into little clips. And if it's pretty good, if it turns out well, I'll put it on this channel. If not, it might go on a Patreon members only, or if it's long enough, rather. If it's tight, shorter clips, it could be a short. It could go over to the new TeleDynes backstage channel, and that channel's just going to be as I create clips and content. That's kind of like a catch-all for randomness and other backstage footage that I've got from gigs and that sort of stuff. So, update wise, I've got still got the same videos in the mix: the Falcon Rancher demo and the next guitar lesson, which I've got a bunch of requests for, but I am doing This Cat's on a Hot Tin Roof because it keeps sticking in my head, and I let me do it, get it done, get it out of the way, and then I can, focus on other things, and it's not occupying my mind. So anyway, for today, let's see what we can go over. So I had a gig last night. It was pretty good. Just a duo thing down at a little place in Rhode Island, North Kingston, Rhode Island, called Oak Hill Tavern. And it was outside. Audience was great, responsive, and we had a good time. And here's a tune that is called Lonesome Tears in My Eyes. We'll go over this one. This one's been played. This is Johnny Burnett, is the version that I am referencing. Also, the Beatles did it on the Live at the BBC. That used to be part of their main set list. So it's kind of a rumba type feel, and it ends with a cha-cha. It's in the key of E, and it walks up to a 5, down to a 4, back down to the 1. And it starts off with this little riff. Right? And kind of palm muting that a little bit. And then it goes to a 5 chord. So I just play this kind of rake over a B7 here. Down to a 1, right? Then we walk up to a 4. And that little riff, then we go into a solo, and I don't know where I got the solo from. Maybe a combination of both versions or whatever. So I kind of do my own thing here, but it starts on the 5, right? Goes to the 1, the 4, and all that stuff. So. So there, we're back on the 1. And you're just kind of playing off of the chords and playing these scales. And so yeah, we go off of the and then back to the 1. before. So it just follows the verse format. We're just playing off of these chords here. So you're just playing off of a major scale here. That's an E, and then we go to the 5. Walk down a little rundown on a scale. So you can always play off of the blues scales, the major scales, the pentatonics, and all of that stuff. I mean, that's kind of the whole structure of the tune. Then it goes back around again to another verse. It ends. Every time after every verse, it does that same riff again. Right? All right, hold on one second. Sorry, I had to reply to something real quick. All right. So, oops, silly pop-ups. So then you have another little trick you can do for soloing to kind of if you just want to do, you're improvising and you need a little just something quick and easy to fall back on. You can do these pentatonic scales, right? We all know that. But if you're playing in, say, A, right? If you want to get a kind of bluesier sound, you play over this A. You play the pentatonic here, almost like you're playing over a minor. You can do a lot with just that scale, right? And then if you want a more melodic major sound, you flip and you play over. You can think of it two ways. You can play over the A here, so it's almost like you're playing over this shape, this bar chord. You're down here, you're playing open since we're in A. And you play pentatonic over that. So what you're really doing is you're playing a pentatonic over the relative minor. So you're playing over the 6, which is the F sharp, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 from A. F sharp. And you just play a pentatonic over F sharp. You're still in A. But it's more major. It's a little more melodic. Not more melodic necessarily, but just a major sound as opposed to a minor blues sound. And then you can flip and then you're over that, right? And of course you can go up there and play over the major minor, relation to A minor, C. And it's always good to get familiar with not just patterns. So you're not just playing visually, you're also playing, you're thinking about the notes as well. So if I'm playing an A and I'm thinking about the key, then you can then you can think about, okay, well, I know what the third is, I know the root, I know the third, I know the fifth, and you can play off with it, and you know the scale patterns and also modes and everything else too that can help you with that. So that's how I'm playing basically. So I'm just still in E, playing that little pattern there, but I start on the 5, so I'm starting on that, but I'm still playing off of a E major scale. So just because we're over a B chord doesn't mean you suddenly start playing a B major scale, right? We're in the key of E. And it's the same. It's just the same as if you were playing an E major scale. Right? Whatever you want to do. And you've got that. That's where you got the major scale there. You've got it here. Right? Of course. Over there. There's so many different places you can play on the guitar. That's why the guitar is, it's pretty versatile, but it can also be a little confusing sometimes because it's not like a piano where middle C is always in the same spot, where on the guitar it's here, 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 and there, right? So you have to kind of get used to the fact that it a little bit more memorization, I guess, than the piano or other instruments like that. So, let's see, what other type of songs can I go over? Oh yeah, at the end of that, the Lonesome Tears, it does that riff again because after every verse it goes back to that. And then it just does the cha-cha-cha. However you want to do that. Yes, just one cha-cha per set, right? That's all you're allowed. Let's see, another tune I've been doing. I like this. We do another Buddy Holly. We did a Buddy Holly earlier this week. We also do, I forgot, we do, besides Blue Days, Black Nights, Rave On. And that one, it doesn't really have a guitar solo in it, but it has a piano solo. So I kind of approximate that sort of on the guitar. It's not perfect, kind of messy on the piano anyway. So it's basically just kind of rolling between the sixth and that. Lennon was inspired for the Ballad of John and Yoko for that song. Yeah, that makes sense. I can hear it because you can hear that same riff at the very end of the tune. Yeah, you can hear it for sure. Well, they used to play it, right? They played it at John sings it on the Live at the BBC. So, that was part of their Amsterdam set. Yeah, with Rave On. So it just does that, the intro with the vocal, and then it's just rock and roll, really. For a little while. And then the rhythm changes of Rave On. And then, of course, the ending is. And the solo, it climbs up. Pretty simple. I mean, the piano, it's kind of just bouncing around between the six. I mean, he's playing like arpeggio type runs on the piano there. You could just to sort of approximate that sound in that solo. So that's kind of what I do with a lot of, anytime the piano solo comes up, you kind of do the best you can to approximate it. I mean, it's like playing Jerry Lee Lewis stuff, right? Without a piano, it's kind of tough to play Great Balls of Fire or any. You can get away with a whole lot of shaking because it's not anything piano centric, but it's really tough to play something like Great Balls of Fire. I mean, you can kind of do like pick it with your fingers, I guess. Play a seventh there, but it's not quite the same. So so I don't really do too many Jerry Lee songs for obvious reasons. A whole lot of shaking. It actually starts with a guitar, but so let's see. Trying to think of some other tunes to go over or some other little techniques. I don't really have a lot. We're doing a lot of streams this week and trying to figure out what else we can discuss solo-wise and that sort of thing. Let's see. Some of these, after playing the gig last night, I see a lot of videos pop up on like bar chords and that sort of thing. People are, at least lately, I've been seeing them like, oh, there are other ways to play instead of playing bar chords. It's like you really, if you're gonna play any of this kind of stuff and you're playing any kind of lead, you really need to play bar chords. And the best advice if you're struggling with bar chords, if you're playing on acoustic, I mean, that's the best way to strengthen up your hand because the action is going to be quite a bit higher. But you can get that action down pretty good. And I've talked about how you can, if you're not comfortable with doing it, take it to somebody to get that action down, because otherwise you're just putting unnecessary work on yourself to try to play that chord clean, right? And it's going to take time to build up the strength, especially in your index finger and your thumb, to really grip that. And the best way to do that, to get used to it, is to just don't play anything. Just put your fingers in the positions. Get your hand in that bar chord shape. Play it once. Play each individual string. And make sure it's clean like that. And then slowly release the pressure. There, you can hear the buzz there. So I know I got to put a little bit more pressure down. There it is. And I can feel that pressure. And then you don't have to play anything, just hold it. And just sit there for as long as you can until it starts to hurt a little bit. And then stop. And then after, relax your hand, shake it out, go back and try to do it again. The same thing with anytime you're struggling with any chord shape, that's what I do, is I'll do that. And then as I'm learning songs, if I go from one chord to another, if I find myself struggling going from one chord to another, then I just practice really slowly going from this chord to this chord, or whatever chord you're going to. And then try to get it faster. You don't have to play with your, strumming hand, just going back and forth like this. And then as you get comfortable with it, then just make sure all the notes are clean. And then that will, just by doing that and holding it, sit on the couch, watch TV, whatever, and you just hold the shape, you'll eventually it'll just become muscle memory before you know it, and you'll just start doing that. And that, once you get that down, then you can start doing, then you can really get in some of the rockabilly finger picking stuff, because you really need to have that full bar chord there to be able to effectively do something like any of that kind of stuff. whatever you want to do. It's easier to do the 9 chords than it is this. And I don't know about you guys, but I find it more difficult to keep that up here on the D position, or the E. I fatigue much faster up here than if I am down here. Right? But you kind of have to do that, right? Because I guess you have to be careful with what strings you're playing if you're trying to do something like that. But you got to make sure that when you're playing over that chord, that you're playing the root note of whatever chord you're trying to play. That way, you're not can't just play anything. You have to at least have the root note. You're not playing, bass lines or anything. You're not jumping back and forth between the 1, the 5, or doing anything like that. It's just, and even if it glides over the 5th string, that's fine. It's just the idea that there's something pulsing there, and that it's in between the root and the 5. Right? So yeah, getting that is just really getting used to that thumb and playing around with the fingers, but making sure you got a tight grip on that bar chord, because if you don't, you'll start getting buzzing on the top strings a little bit. And it's always going to be usually in the index finger. And getting used to that is just a matter of doing it over and over again and building up the strength so you don't fatigue, and so you can play a whole song all the way through. Trying to think of a good song to do for that would be something like the Stray Cats, Two Hip Gotta Go. There's another one. There's a Little Baby Doll by Go Cat Go. As far as traditional or more classic tunes, you can have something like That's All Right Mama, Scotty Moore. That's a little different finger picking. You can do a half bar chord shape with that one. It just so it works out because we're in A, right? So you can play that open A, and you still get the low octave of the A without having to play a bar chord. Right? But you can do it this way too. Also, Blue Days, Black Nights, Buddy Holly. Right? I didn't do that one last night. I don't think. Oh no, I did. I did like 60 songs yesterday. I can't remember what we did. We just kind of went from one song to the next, and some of them I hadn't played in a long time. I actually did some Elvis stuff, like All Shook Up and Hound Dog and Johnny Be Good and all that stuff. I haven't played that stuff in years, but it was okay. It was all right. Yeah, the Carl Perkins stuff. There's not a lot of finger picking in that, at least not the songs I know. You can, yeah, I guess Blue Suede Shoes, there's a little bit of it. Usually the way a lot of that stuff is played, you just play with a pick. You're doing something like that. It's not actually doing all of this finger picking stuff. I just default to that, and the reason why I do that is because there's no rhythm guitar player. I'm just the only guitar player, whether it's a duo or a trio. So to fill in that space, it's nice to keep that other, the finger picking thing going. So you got a little bit of bass, you got some rhythm going on, and you got the melody notes on the top and that sort of thing. And so there's a lot of play. There's a lot of, you know, even when you're not playing a lead or something, or you're not just playing a chords, every time you're singing, you don't get a chance to really just like hold a note and let it ring out and then rest for a minute and then come back in and let other people play. As the only guitar player, you're doing all the work. So, I mean, the bass player's always playing, the drummer's usually always playing unless there's a stop or something, right? So, but yeah, typically in other bands I have done where I play leads, I can go into a solo, play the solo and let the note ring out at the very end, whatever I'm doing, and then stop for a minute, and the other guitar player or keyboard, and then I'll come in with some other chords or basic rhythm and build it back up again. But like I said, as the only guitar player, and the only lead and rhythm instrument in a band, you don't really have the option to just kind of lay out. But you don't want to be constantly playing either. You want to have spaces and put holes and stuff in rhythm playing as well, so you can create those sounds and silences that create music and rhythm. So you don't just want to be playing, you know, full open chords all the time, right? So you can create little dynamics by muting, and then little pulsing pops and whatever comping type stuff. Right, just all these different little things you can do to change up the rhythm and create different dynamics throughout. And that's just playing over one chord. You can play different inversions too and do the same thing. D, here, whatever you're trying to do. Cool. And that's another thing too. I think I've mentioned this before. I never know who's seen it before. There's always this chord, major chord position. A lot of times, especially if we're playing in E flat or D even, you get this D and this, right? Everybody knows that. But you don't usually, every time you see it in a book, you want the root note in the bottom, right? So you're not playing the bottom two strings. Just doing that. But what you can do is you can do this shape. And you get an octave, you get the root note in the bottom too, but you also get an extra F sharp, a couple more notes there. And you can play the third on the top there if you want to. And that really comes in handy if you're in E flat, right? So instead of just being stuck with this form all the time, you can play that. You're not playing the top string or the bottom string. Just playing the middle four strings there. Kind of muting it with my index finger or little finger for the high E, and then the thumb is muting the bottom string. And move that shape around, right? Wherever you want to go. And to visualize that, it's just a C, like a C minor 7, any kind of minor 7 shape, and you just put your little finger 4 frets above where your index finger is on the fifth string there. And you can play the whole bar chord there. You can play the whole thing, everything, because it's playing octaves there. It just puts the third in the bottom, which is okay. And that creates a nice little an alternative movable shape as opposed to just being stuck here. I believe I go over this in my chord shapes video too. You can play a 6 like that instead of just being stuck with that or way up here, right? Play it like this. all different kinds of inversions. That's why it's important to learn the different the chords, right? To learn the scales, learn the chord, the notes that are in the chords, and it's how to build chords. And if you ever come across a chord that you're unfamiliar with, just count the scale degrees, so you know the chord's going to have the 1, the 3, and the 5 primarily. That's your major chord, right? Or either or that or a minor third, right? And then if you see something that says sharp 5, then you just go, okay, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you just raise the 5, 1. You don't play the 2 5s together, so you're not going to play an E. If you're an A, you're not going to play an E and an F. You're just going to play the F. And if you look at the shape, you'll say, oh, that's also an augmented chord. Sure is. And if you add that flat 7th in there, it'll usually say something like A7 sharp 5, not A sharp 5. It'll say A7 sharp 5. Most extensions are going to have the flat 7th as kind of like the anchor, the qualifier to add the rest of it in extensions, because they're usually dominant chords. And so you'll add a 13, that flat 7th in there. A 9, right, would be many ways to play that. All different things. And if you know you're familiar with the fingerboard, you know what the notes are, you can come up with all different sorts of inversions and voicings and things like that. And with extensions too, you can always omit the root and the 5th if you have a bunch of extensions on the top of the chord. That way, you're not that way if you run out of fingers, you run out of strings, you can omit especially the root and the 5th, because that's implied by the bass, if you're playing with a bass player or whatever. And a lot of the times, if you're getting songs that have these crazy extensions and stuff like that, it's only usually a passing chord, or it's very quick. It's not going to be the entire thing, unless you're playing some crazy jazz stuff or something, I guess. Anyway, I guess that'll do it for now. I'm kind of rambling and coming up with whatever I can think about to talk about musically. So I'm going to be working on the next videos coming out soon. I've got a couple of shorts here coming up, just a couple little guitar techniques and things like that. I'll be adding some more stuff to the Patreon as well. And of course, all the videos that are on YouTube will also be available on the Patreon as well. And then we've got, after those 2 lessons, I've got a couple of other musical type, more theory type stuff, I guess, conversational pieces. And the podcasts are in play, so hopefully we get a couple of those coming up soon, and I'll be able to release those consistently. Until next time, until next week, have a good one, everybody, and thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you then.